assignment friendly Loren Meadows. No, I'm not Loren Meadows, and he's not Loren Meadows. We are just holding down the fort for him. Welcome to the Lowdown. I am Brenden Martin. He is Rob Browne, guest hosting for Loren, who is with us, might be with us later. Rob, tonight we're diving into the red-hot Florida Gators 2026 recruiting class. 5 stars, 4 stars, 2 4-stars, and much, much more. Buddy's going to come on. Franz Beard. It's Swap Stars time. How you like that, Rob? Cheers.
It really is, man. Cheers. And the Gators recruiting JaReylan McCoy, number 9 ranked player in the country. He's a 5-star big time get out of Tupelo, Mississippi. I mean, you know, and it'll be, look, with NIL, most of these guys, they put their deals together. Florida has so much, they're putting together one of the best classes in the country. I'm not really surprised by it at all because they are a team with you know, DJ Lagway at quarterback. There's so much momentum right now, but they're still one of the more undervalued teams in the country. Florida, they close out winning 4 of the last 5 games last year. So, yeah, a lot to talk about tonight. We'll break it down.
There's rumor mill. You know, the rumor mill is that it's about to pop off.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of real smoke about that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that with the one Buddy Martin and Francis Beard here in a little while. But Rob, you were right. We were talking to Yancey Porter today on your show. The SEC Sidelines on Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central for 1 hour, red hot 60 seconds of SEC sports talk. Awesome. Yancey was referring to the fact that he thinks the Florida Gators are one of the most underrated teams. Yeah. And there's a lot of people who say they're being overrated, but he says, no, they're being underrated.
They are, and like I said, we do a full 60 minutes every Monday through Friday, and we got into it. You look at Florida, and you look at the trend, the way they closed last year. Remember, let's go back over some facts. 63% of the roster last year was 4 or 5-star players on the blue chip index. That was good enough for 9th best in the country. It started coming together when DJ Lagway was healthy. I mean, there are rumors all over the place about him. My gut feeling is he's good to go. He's rehab. He's going to be ready to go. So Florida momentum, again, I've got them picked to win 10. If they're 10-0 at the end of the season, they're going 12-0. I just say there's going to be you cannot get caught up in logo fever with the schedule. I mean, you've got to play at A&M. You got to play, you know, at Miami. All right, that's life. Florida's done that before. Did anybody see the disaster, the Cat 5 hurricane disaster that was Florida State football last year coming? Nobody did.
Nobody did.
And that was their worst season since 1975 when Daryl Mudra was the coach before Bobby Bowden took over in 76.
I love watching them lose, though.
Yeah, so I know you do.
I hate them.
And I think with Billy Napier's staff, it takes you 2 or 3 years to get a staff really in place and for your culture to take over. He didn't get the job because everything was going well when Dan Mullen was there. Not that Dan Mullen couldn't coach, but the recruiting at Florida is now, it is with the way Florida finished the last 2 weeks in signing day. They finished 7th or 8th in the country. You pick the poll. They're now building on that momentum. And Florida fans, you can feel it. It's palpable. And Oklahoma is another school that's getting a lot of momentum. But if you've got a front 7 defensively with some depth, you know, you're not going to be 2 and 3 deep with studs at every position. That just doesn't happen with NIL. Well, really with the portal as it is. I do think Florida also, they've got running backs, they've got offensive linemen, and they've got defensive linemen. The SEC, if you go back and look, why did Georgia beat Texas twice last year? In Austin for the SEC championship, line of scrimmage game. And I know people are picking Texas this year, but you know Texas could not run the ball well last year, and they had to rely on their passing game. And Quinn Ewers missed like 5 games in 2 years. Arch Manning played a decent amount. But here's the thing. Texas is replacing 4 of 5 starters on the offensive line. Florida's got more. You cannot put a high enough value on experience and bonding, especially on the line of scrimmage. That's why Florida is trending the way they are. Look at that shirt, man. Look at that. That is Gator blue. I love that.
Let me look at this guy. Hi, Dad.
Hi, Brenden.
How are you, sir?
I'm all right. I got my new glasses on. Can you tell?
Wow, yeah. They're blue.
They are, but I don't.
They kind of look purpley.
I know, but they're blue.
I'm feeling purple, very purpley.
They're blue if you see close.
Wow.
But
all right. Well,
I'm not happy about the fact they have a glare on, however, but that's just how it is. I'm trying.
Well, Dad, you've always been a fashion-forward person, and these are very fashion-forward.
Yeah, I'm a fashionista, so well, I got to get them ready for the new show that Rob Browne and I are doing on the Panhandle. So this is the new look, the Panhandle coming up. We got all kind of. How many shows we have? 50? I don't know.
I'm not Loren, by the way.
By the way, I wondered where he was exactly. This says the Loren Meadows, high-low Loren or something.
It's the Lowdown. We're on the Lowdown, dog. Come on.
Lowdown with Loren Meadows.
We're on the Lowdown. He's on assignment. It's all right.
We have to change the name of the show to something else.
We're going to change the same to the Wicked Sunglasses with Buddy Martin. Buddy, the glasses have always been your signature, but let's not digress too much. How hot is Florida recruiting, in your opinion? Because you're not one to overstate, and you're also not one to get into recruiting that much.
Right.
But if you, Buddy Martin, say anything about recruiting, everyone should listen. What my opinion is.
Sound like a Johnny Carsyn lead. How hot was the recruiting? I don't have a good answer for that, but it is really. I don't think I've seen this, and I'm not one to get into it. I said this morning to Brady. I can't get him off. I didn't talk to Brady, but he was on the show last week too. To Shane, I said, Shane, I know you don't like recruiting. You think they all don't matter until I get on the field, but you cannot ignore it any longer. He said, well, I'll wait till I see him on the field. I said, it's too late, Shane. It's too late. You've got to go ahead and get into it somehow. Granted, it's difficult to get into right now. Really hard to catch up because we don't do it well. We're not on 3. We don't do we don't do it. So what's happening here on my screen? Bottom line is that there's so much going on. People are talking to me about things I've never heard them talk about since Urban was the head coach here. I'm hearing stories that say Florida's getting ready to blow it away, blow the lid off recruiting. And I'm hearing from people who are inside the meeting rooms who have heard when they have their top 40 kids. Rob, I told you this too.
Yep.
That all of a sudden there's this thing. Everybody wants to commit to Florida. Well, guess what? They ain't going to have enough space for everybody. And literally speaking, the last time they had the 40 people in, their top ones, and they met, someone said to me, I think they all want to be a Gator, all 40 of them. Well, obviously that can't happen, but 2026 went from being a real lean year to about to be a fat year, and it's not done yet. I can read off the past 10 guys they got in the last couple of weeks. I mean, they're like making quantum leaps. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know what that means. Rob, I talked to you about this. Mm-hmm. You're a money guy, Rob. You know the markets or whatever. I asked you about when do you know when to invest, and you said trending, when things are trending, right? Mm-hmm. You never really know. And Shane says to me, well, they're all going to go something. They're going to end up going something. No, they're not, because they can't right now. They can't until next year. Sure, a couple of them could say, I'm not going to play next year and just opt out. I would say they will get probably, this is just 85 to 90% of their commits will come to Florida. Yeah. And they're getting some big guys on the offensive line. And they're getting some speed. We got a running back. I haven't seen him yet. I don't want to speak. I don't speak to at least see him on video. But when I do see him on video, I do speak, as you know, last year when I talked about DJ Lagway and what I saw there and what I saw the spring game, what I saw with Jaden Bob. So I'm not an expert. I know a player when I see him. I see certain things I like. But what I'm hearing and seeing now is that hold on to your pants or whatever you hold on to, because the next 2 weeks are going to be unbelievable. And it's going to be a bonanza for the Florida Gators. So something's going on.
Well, you're talking about Carsyn Baker, 4-star running back that
Right.
the Gators got. And you got, the kids that are committing with these NIL deals, you're keeping them. And if you look at Florida, you lost Pyburn to LSU and one other impact player that you didn't want to lose. But other than
last year,
other than that's two. It wasn't like you lost.
There have been three or four.
Yeah, but Billy Napier's doing a good job of keeping. Again, there's a lot of value in a Florida degree. I mean, that's a powerful network. I mean, law school, vet school, medical school, 500,000 alumni, massive fan base. What do y'all say? 6.5, 7 million. There's a lot of people. Think about that. That Billy's. I bet you Freddie Weeby has talked to a couple of these kids and Steve Spurrier about, hey, you come here, stick it out. If you start, great. If not, and you're a contributor and you get your degree, you can network at this place. And there's 23 million people in the state, and not all the Gators live in the state of Florida. They're all over the place. I think that's starting to sink in with some of these kids. I really do, because I'm talking to people and they're asking these kids that have transferred 3 or 4 times. Hey man, when you get married and have kids and you say, hey, I want to go home to my college, where are you going to go? You know what they're saying? They're going, I don't know. It's hitting home.
It's hitting home, and it's hitting home runs. And look, all I know is this. I was told a long time ago by a lot of coaches that recruiting is absolutely everything. Mm-hmm. Brenden, as you know, I've never been that kind of guy. I like to think they can develop players, whatever. And you don't always, every player you draft is not going to be a 5-star and what have you. But the fact is now, we know now, especially with the money on the line, that recruiting is really critical. And I heard Tom Luganville say, and you talked about it, Rob, it's great for the top 150, but the rest of the kids are going to go sucking because there's not a whole lot of scholarships out there available. And if you're not careful, you can get left like musical chairs, that game where you get left no place to sit. Yeah. You're left with no place to sit. And it's now the key positions and the key scholarships at the key schools are really precious earth. What they call it, rare earth. And there are things that if you get one, you better hold on to it because they aren't coming around the corner tomorrow. So I think we're going to see this whole thing work itself out. Now we have some concerns about what players sticking. Let me tell you what, if they ever get the NIL deal contracts done, it's over because now we're talking about business and deals, Rob, and that's your world. When you get a contract, you said you got to show up or you don't get the money. Money's nice when you got it, but when you lose your job and lose the money, it hurts.
Well, in a contract, the big print giveth, the small print taketh away. Just got to read the bottom of the page, have your lawyer handy there to read it. But I'll make 2 predictions, and I see the Panama Franz there. And 2 predictions I'm going to make. We're going to see the portal closed to 1 transfer opportunity. Well, it's going to be 1 portal a year, and we're going to go back to there's going to be a compromise. Typically, compromise is the victory of cowards. But in this case, it's going to be the victory for everybody. But I heard Chuck Oliver saying on his show today, get David Stern to come in here and be the commissioner. Remember the way he dealt with Kobe Bryant, wanted to wear purple tights? He said, no, that's goofy looking. Wade, no, you're not doing that. We need a commissioner to come in, and the kids have got all the power now. The tail's wagging the dog. So we're going to go to 1 transfer portal window a year, and you'll get to do one get out of jail free pass. After that, you got to sit for a year, and we're going to go to 2 or 3 year contracts with NIL. That stuff is coming. That's just my prediction because what's going on now, it's unsustainable. And it's always darkest before dawn. That's where we are now. That's why it's going to get fixed.
I wrote this morning that they can, not one other thing they can do that can resolve this. One, transfer portal. Make the transfer portal window open in January. Eliminate spring practice until the month of May. Okay? That would help the kids, because they spend all this time during spring. They're supposed to be working on their grades and stuff, and what do? They spend the entire month of January and February doing mat drills and stuff like that to get ready for spring practice, which takes up either March or April. So eliminate spring football until May. Then your early enrollee kids, instead of having to enroll in January and skip their junior, senior prom, can go to the prom, can graduate and everything like that, and still be there for spring football practice. Solve a lot of issues right there. You're right about the contracts. That's on the way. That's got to be, because you got to have a kid just can't up and decide, well, I don't want to play in the bowl game because my agent wants me to drive a Mercedes now, and he's going to get me a Mercedes Benz, so I'm not going to play in the bowl game. I'm going to tell everybody it's so I can prepare for the NFL draft. Right, like 10 days is going to make a difference in your draft pick. No way. That's the biggest cop-out in the world. So give them a contract. Say this. You get cop out of a ball game, you've breached your contract, we'll sue you for every dime we've paid you and every dime your scholarship's worth. It's only going to take about one of those, and all of a sudden things will change in a hurry. You're right, Rob.
They have to. And in the business world, everybody operates on contracts. Hell, I've had contracts. I mean, seriously, you violate those, you are in a world of split. They want to be treated like adults. They want to be treated like pros. Okay. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you a question. This is we're all gathered here together for this fine evening, and we got a log on the fireplace. We just lost Franz, but maybe he'll come back. I'm going to ask you this question. We agree that all of a sudden the tide has turned for the Florida Gators. Billy, as someone just wrote, Billy's killing it. All right. What do you think happened? What happened to make these players want to come to Florida? What was it was winning the 4 games last year, but what was more? If you had to size it up, I'll start with Franz. Why is this thing turning around? And why all of a sudden are people wanting to come to Florida in a bad way?
I think probably the biggest reason is from kids I have talked to and from people who are involved in the recruiting process. Billy Napier is doing the best job of selling kids on the idea that when you come here, we will take care of you. We'll take care of you emotionally, spiritually, physically, you name it, but we are here for you. I've talked to a couple of parents today who said that football talk occupied about 20% of the visit. 80% of the visit is, what are we going to do to make you a better person and help you become the best person you can be? Here, what can we do to make sure that when you graduate, you do graduate and you have a degree that is meaningful instead of one in underwater basket.
Can tell. I want to do this spot on from Meldon Law if I can, and tell folks about our good friends there, because rare is the sponsor and the person as loyal as the folks at Meldon Law. Jeffrey Meldon is not just a prince of a guy. He's a heck of a lawyer, and he's a great Gator. And he just delights in the success of the Gators, and particularly in basketball here. He and Todd Golden have become very close friends. So I just got to say that if you need law help, if you need help on law, or you want to talk Gator sports, you can go down and see him there as well. But I recommend, as I did, I went down, I actually got a hold of Jeffrey, and we just talked about a situation, and he said, buddy, I think the best thing to do is let me put you in touch with this other attorney. And he did, and he's working on the case right now. Melon law is just to have the confidence of someone you can call and trust. I think the word we're looking for is trust. When you know you can trust somebody, call them up and say, here's my situation, what should I do? And they tell you, now you know you can trust them and count on what they say. So if this is what you're looking for in a lawyer, or you want to also reward a great Gator, call Melon Law. They have 4 locations to serve you: Gainesville, Ocala, Williston, and Lake City. Melon Law, they won't back down. Why am I not hearing you, Brenden?
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for doing that, buddy. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions more about what the Gators have picked up recently and the impact going forward. Franz, I know you probably are a lot more versed here, so can you just give us an overview of what's happened in the last week and as far as factual and who what to expect here?
I'll give you the names. I have the names if you want to hear them. Go ahead.
Well, either one. I don't know who knows no. So
well, buddy, you give them the names, and then I'll give you commentary.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. Let me go to my sheet here, and by the way, I think the other way is comments from people. I went down, I got some comments on Twitter, and I don't know these people, but perception is everything. This guy writes, "This is a group called Two Pros from Dover. Stay hot, coach. You're racking up wins in recruiting. I'm loving what I'm seeing. Been a Gator since I was 8 years old, a graduate in 1973. This is the most positive I've felt in a very, very long time. Really looking forward to a kickoff in a couple of months." So there you go. And the other one was somebody named Michael said, "Remember a week ago when everyone was freaking out about this class, coach flipped the switch." So they're raving about this guy, Tyler. I got to know if I can pronounce it right. It's Chucky on, offensive lineman, talking about what a he's 6'6", 290 from Douglasville, Georgia. Chose the Gators over Ole Miss, Cincinnati, and Florida State. Then here's the list. I can't pronounce all the names. The big 4 or 5 stars, some got him at 5, some 4. 4-star defensive lineman, JaReylan McCoy. He was a big get. 4-star wide receiver, Marquez Daniel. 4-star running back, Carsyn Baker. You mentioned him earlier, Rob. 4-star wide receiver, Justin Williams from Gainesville. We know about what he can do. 4-star safety, Caden Hall. 4-star offensive tackle, I mentioned Tyler Chiyukum. 3-star tight end, Moa. I'm sorry, Kikua. I didn't get your name right. 3-star offensive tackle, Chancellor Campbell. 3-star offensive tackle, Geneva Carr Ocala, actually, but he's an IMG kid. 3-star offensive tackle, Javari Luco. They're really pumped about him. So these are just they got in the last 15 days. They tell me there's a lot more to come. Franz, that to me sounds like some serious stuff.
Well, it is. Florida's the hot team now, all in the Southeast. And part of the reason is this kid who's the quarterback, Will Griffin, out of Tampa Jesuit. This kid has really gotten on the recruiting thing. He's being like DJ Lagway, and the two of them together are convincing kids, hey, DJ will be gone in a couple years. I'm the guy that will be taking over. And kids are just gravitating toward that. Kids like that alpha male that is in there at quarterback that gives them the impression that whatever comes my way, I will beat it. And you know, we had a quarterback like that named Tebow who was pretty good back in the day. We've had several of them like that at the University of Florida. But that's the one position in college football and all of football that you better have an alpha male. You know, this quiet guy that just, you know, says, well, I will lead by example. that might work on the offensive line or at linebacker or someplace like that. But at quarterback, you better have somebody in there that talks the talk and walks the walk. That's all. And you get this kid Will Griffin in there that's helping with this class, and then you got DJ doing the same thing. These kids are coming on campus and they are leaving excited about being Gators. I'm reading some of the comments of kids who have come here and they're just absolutely going crazy about it. And Jason Higdon, who's probably the best recruiting guy in the country, and he does it for the Gators, he thinks that Florida's got a chance to land these guys. 5-star defensive end Trenton Henderson out of Pensacola Catholic. 3-star cornerback C.J. Hester out of Cocoa, who really should be a 4-star. Nebraska commit 4-star cornerback C.J. Browne out of Windermere. 4-star linebacker Malik Morris out of Lakeland. Count on him. He's as good as in as far as I'm concerned. And 4-star wide receiver Samarian Wingo Jr. out of St. Augustine. Florida's going to probably pick up at least 4 of those guys. And when they do, Florida's class, which is now ranked 13th, was 32nd just 15 days ago, is now 13th. It's probably going to go up to about number 4 or number 5.
And you haven't mentioned a guy from Pensacola, did you?
Yeah, I did.
Trenton Henderson, you mentioned a 5-star from Pensacola.
Yeah,
okay.
I did. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
He's a stud, and we really hadn't had a great recruit from Pensacola in quite a few years. We had this guy named Smith Emmett, somebody. He was pretty good out of Pensacola. I think most of you guys would agree that he was a pretty good ball player. And we haven't recruited well out of Pensacola since then. Florida State and Auburn have owned Pensacola. There's a reason why they call Tallahassee westward Lower Alabama, and Auburn seems to own that in recent years. But Florida's making inroads there. Florida's making inroads down in South Florida with good ball players down there. And you don't have to dominate the recruiting in those 2 areas, Buddy and Rob and Brenden, but you got to be able to get some good ones out of there. And if you can get enough good ones out of there to just keep that stream going, it really adds up. You get 2 let's say you get 2 from Miami, 2 from the Panhandle this year. That's 4. Next thing you know, that's 8 the next year, 16, 20 guys. A fourth of your team is that way. And I'm sure Auburn feels the same way about recruiting in the Panhandle. Yeah. They don't have to dominate the recruiting there. But if they can get 3 or 4 guys a year out of there, then it's been a very successful year for them. Wouldn't you say, Rob?
Yeah, and because those kids are they're Spartans. I mean, the Panhandle produces a ton of talent. And I think that it gets neglected sometimes. And with Florida State being what they are right now, Florida's got an opportunity to really jump in there and take away a big piece of the market share. But I think the attraction to Florida is they're in the SEC. And you can't – that is so valuable. And Florida State, you don't know – they got – when they have problems – it benefits Florida, but there's almost 400 Division I players in the state of Florida. But I would always get a player or 2 out of the muck if I could too. Those kids are just pound for pound. They're tougher, and the track and field programs in Florida high schools set them apart from, in my opinion, every state in America. It's that good. It's that big a difference.
Yeah, I see that someone mentioned. What about Danny? Yeah, Danny is from Choctawhatchee, then down around this area, right around here.
Fort Walton.
Yeah, Fort Walton. It's not in Pensacola, so that's a little further out. People don't know the geography of the Panhandle, which I'm just learning, and Brendan's about to learn pretty soon. He knows a little bit about it, don't you, Brent? Geography of the Panhandle.
Hi, I'm just running the show. We got about 800 people on. I'm dealing with the rest of the fan base, buddy. Just pump the brakes.
Buddy, let me tell you something cool about
me. I just want you to know that.
I don't know anything about the Panhandle, buddy. I'm from Colorado. Remember when you worked at the Denver Post? You know, I didn't. I'm not from Florida. I know.
Yeah, I know.
Buddy,
you weren't born at Bayfront Hospital in St. Pete. Go ahead.
Yeah,
buddy,
that's not the Panhandle. So that's not
buddy,
the boot.
here's something cool to think about,
The hell?
buddy. When you cross the Mid-Bay Bridge there in Destin, you go across Choctawhatchee Bay. It's called Danny Werfel Way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Must be a long touchdown pass.
Long one.
You know something, guys? It was so funny, as I remember it like it was yesterday, because I was broadcasting on a radio network the state championships games, and that day, Danny Cannell comes in there from Fort Lauderdale, and he's this guy that everybody is saying, boy, Florida State got him, and Florida is doomed. We got this Werfel guy. And Danny Cannell comes there and had the worst game of his high school career. The next game being played, there is Fort Walton Beach, and like on about the second or third game, and they're playing St. Thomas Aquinas, and everybody's predicting St. Thomas is going to kill them. And the third play of the game, Danny Werfel comes down the line, fakes a pitch out, boom, 80 yards up the field. And all of a sudden people start saying, well, maybe this Danny guy is rather good. Yeah. And Fort Walton Beach won that game, something like 42-7. Just blew the doors off St. Thomas. And, that's just the perfect example right there of Panhandle football, because his top target was a guy named Ernie Green. They called him E.G., who went on to Florida State and was an All-American wide receiver. But the football in this state, the high school football, is so good, but it is in Georgia too. And you got to recruit Georgia. You got to recruit Florida. You've got to recruit Alabama. And Florida is now becoming a player along with Auburn, along with Georgia and Alabama. You got 4 schools that are really starting to dominate these 3 states in the recruiting. And it's showing off. I picked Florida today to be the number 3 team in the SEC this year.
And basketball.
I'm not talking basketball. I think they're going to be the number 1 team in the nation in basketball. Mm-hmm. But I believe that the tide has turned in Florida's direction thanks to building from the ground up. I think Hugh Freeze isn't that far off from having Auburn back to where Auburn is a winning program again too. He's got linemen now, and by golly, if Jackson Arnold can deliver at quarterback, they're going to be really good, because they got receivers that can just, holy cow, they run faster than scalded dogs.
Well, and I think when you look at Florida, it's the same thing. I mean, close to 400 Division I players a year come out of Florida. About 250 come out of the state of Georgia. Alabama's around 140. That's 390. That's almost 800.
How about Louisiana?
Louisiana's about 90 to 95 a year.
And all of them are 4-stars.
A lot of them, and they do really well. But when LSU struggles, it's because they're losing. They used to lose a lot to Notre Dame. But I think the Gators too. I'll tell you something interesting is, why does Georgia struggle at Buford High School there? Because so many transients. Those kids they're not from Georgia. Right there in Atlanta, but is the IMG connection, Franz and buddy, Brenden. Florida's starting to get some kids. I think they got a big kid out of Ocala they're going to get. Now, that's not a surprise, but Ocala, is Ocala the most southern town in Florida? Big city.
The state of Florida, you got to understand something. The state of Florida ends. You can draw a line from Pinellas in Hillsborough County, straight across the state, and Florida exists between there and the Lake City and the Columbia County line. Yeah. Then you're talking about lower Georgia and then lower Alabama, and you got Cuba del Norte on the East Coast, and you got lower Ohio and lower lower Michigan on the West Coast.
Yep.
Florida also exists around Lake Okeechobee.
Yeah.
It really does. But it's really different. This state is like several different states combined.
It
I mean,
is.
buddy, you've been on both coasts. You were on the East Coast, you were on the West Coast, and you know about the difference in the, and you've been up in Jacksonville and Ocala, of course, too. But you know about how the culture changes in this state from area to area. It's different.
To answer Rob's question, I think I thought when he said Southern, he meant geography. Obviously, that's not the case. But
No, just the culture.
Yeah, no. And he said, but you went through me, you said big city. It's
Yeah.
not a big city. It's a big county. And
Yeah.
the city's probably 60,000
Okay.
people. So, or at least it was. Maybe it's bigger. Brenden, you can speak to it. But the county's gotten really big. The county's getting really big. And
500,000 in the county now.
At least.
Wow.
But I mean, it's a good question. The Southern culture. I mean, Jacksonville is pretty Southern.
Yes.
They are pretty Southern.
Oh yeah.
There, I can tell you that for sure.
But that's like a South Georgia town in so many.
Well, but it's still Southern. He said Southern. He didn't say
Oh yeah.
But I mean, you could at one point you could have cut off the state of Florida at just above Orlando and said, let the rest of it float out to sea because there's not much Southern culture in the state.
Yeah.
But I think Ocala is a bastion of it. There's a few things there I still enjoy about the Southern culture in Ocala, and I think it's true. That I don't know if that makes anything different in football. Speaking of football, I think we had a question. It should be about a guy, Jacoby Jackson.
He went JUCO.
He gets left out of all the conversations about running backs. That guy is really a heck of a player. I mean, that running back room was awesome. Excuse me. Jacoby Jackson is from Pensacola, Catholic, yes. So,
but he went JUCO first, and that's why we don't mention him as a recruit.
Okay.
As a recruit out of Pensacola necessarily.
Okay. Point, yeah.
We recruited him out of JUCO, and he was out. He was in JUCO, I believe, in Los Angeles.
Okay.
In fact.
Okay. Yes. Speaking of Ocala, there's a guy from Ocala who's the president of Northwest Florida State now, Mel Ponder, and he had 2 national champions this year in sports there in Northwest Florida State. So people probably don't know where that is. It's in Niceville. Yeah. You know where Niceville is? Well, that's over in the Panhandle here. Rob knows every nook and cranny down there.
Well, it's on the north end of Choctawhatchee Bay, Niceville. I got a friend who has a boat that's 12 minutes from the dock to the East Pass jetty there in Destin. Get out there and go fishing. It's beautiful.
Now you show it off.
No, it's just fun. It's a friend of mine, Johnny Jenkins, lives in Dothan. He's an eye doctor from Memphis, and he absolutely loves that bay, Choctawhatchee Bay in the Panhandle.
Yeah.
Is that's the prettiest water but it's funny, Franz, it's cool you talking about Florida. Good friend of mine, longtime client, was down in Sarasota, Bradenton, living down there for about 5 years, and then they moved back up to Alabama this past year. He said when they were down there looking at houses, they stayed in a hotel somewhere around that area, Naples area. They could get the Big Ten network on TV, but they couldn't get the SEC network. And did he raise some cane with the hotel owner? And the guy said, hey, it's nothing I can do about that.
Well, you know why? I lived down there too, as you know. I lived in just about Fort Myers for 7 years. And if you look at how the highways split and you see 75 and 4, and you see where 4 goes, it goes down to Miami.
Yeah.
You see a lot of direct people come out of New York on 4 right down to Miami along the East Coast.
Yeah. 75 and 95. 75 and 95 go to Miami.
95.
4 goes St. Pete over to
Daytona. 75, 95. You're right. But anyway, my point is that 75 winds up going down to the southwest coast, Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte, and whatever. And that's why there's so many Midwesterners there. They have a ton of. I live down there and work down there. They have a ton of Ohio State fans, Michigan fans, whatever,
Yes.
all in that area down there. You're right. Well, I wrote a lot of SEC columns when I was down there. A lot of people didn't care for them.
It's also called Lower Quebec during the winter. A lot
of Canadians there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing, and I think guys, it affects recruiting football more nowadays than it did, say, 20 years ago, back when Urban first came to Gainesville, because now we have so many transplants. The state's grown so much, because back then I think Florida was looking at 14 million people back in 2007. We're looking right now pushing 24 million.
That's right.
We gained 10 million people. And so many of them have come and moved down here from Michigan, whatever. I go in my sister's neighborhood over here in Eustis, and you can't believe the number of Michigan banners and Ohio State banners that are out there. And you can just quintuple that if you get on in any neighborhood over, like in Port Charlotte or over in Sarasota or Bradenton. So many people from Ohio, Michigan. You see Michigan State banners, etc., like that. And it has made recruiting more difficult, because you got kids growing up in an area where their parents or their grandparents or their neighbors are all graduates from those schools up north, and there is not the loyalty that we had in the state. Buddy, you and I can remember a time when a kid down here, you went to Florida State, or Miami. That was it.
Yeah.
Now they go to Georgia. Then they started trickling off to Georgia and Tennessee. And now you got these kids going up. You know, the best player on Ohio State is from Hollywood, Florida.
Got a couple of questions on here, I think, from Rob, if you can see it. One's for Franz. He says, Sullick seems to have gotten a fire lit in his butt after this season. Can you speak to the 6'5" pitcher from Hawaii if we have a shot at the shortstop in Virginia, Franz?
The pitcher from Hawaii was the Big West Conference Freshman of the Year. He's 6'5". He throws 96 to 98 miles an hour. He when he's got control, he's untouchable. He gets high in the count. That's the only time people ever hit him. Yes, we got a shot at the shortstop from Virginia. In fact, I think we're going to get him. I think you'll see a lot of kids making the transfer move, Perry, after the Major League Baseball draft, which comes up in 2 or 3 weeks, because then you'll see guys who make the decision to come back to schools or stay in the draft, etc., like that. For example, Florida's after this kid who's a catcher at Notre Dame, who's an absolute stud, but everybody's waiting to see what happens with Luke Heyman. If Luke Heyman gets drafted high enough, if he goes first 10 rounds, you can figure he's gone. If he goes in the 11 through 20, he probably will come back. So that would eliminate that catcher, because you're not, that guy's not going to replace the All-SEC catcher, who probably should have been the first team All-America catcher, if you ask me.
Robert's a question for you in there too.
Yeah, Chris Porter. See, he was from Abbeville, Alabama, home of Yellowwood. That's where Jimmy Rain is from, and he went to like a community college, Chipola, not Chipotle, but Chipola, down in the Florida Panhandle. That guy, he was a gamer, man. Chris Porter was a hell of a player. But again, another one of the great Gator players from L.A., Lower Alabama, the Panhandle, from Graceville, Florida, Neil Anderson, played a long time with the Bears. And yet y'all had Jarvis Williams out of Palatka, Florida, over there on the Johns River, great bass fishing. And then the other one was Lorenzo Hampton was from, I think, Miami. But
yeah, he was from Miami High School.
Okay. But so there, I just look at Florida. I think, wasn't there a long time where the Gators didn't really recruit the big city kids in state? They went to these small towns because they like those kids that are up at 4:30 in the morning out there working citrus farms or whatever. And then you start having the Haitian immigrants coming in there to pick the sugar cane down there in South Florida. And man, that in the muck, Lake Okeechobee. You think about great players like Wycliffe Lovelace out of Clewiston. I think of Eric Rhett was out of Pembroke Pines, right there in Fort Lauderdale, near Dillard. And where was Ernest Graham from? Naples or Fort Myers?
It was
Cape Coral.
Cape Coral. Little known fact about Ernest Graham was the off guard to Teddy Dupay on that Cape Coral Mariner basketball team, and
Wow.
they were closest to friends, and there was no question they were going to be at the same school together. Here's the interesting thing that you just brought up. Lorenzo Hampton, I'm thinking John L. Williams. That's what I was saying. John L. Williams and Neil Anderson. Yeah. All three of them in the same backfield with Kerwin Bell. Yeah. All three of those running backs, first team draft picks. John L. Williams was from Palatka, Neil Anderson from Graceville, and Lorenzo Hampton from Miami. And, and before that, James Jones, who played years and years and years, was an all-pro, who was from Pompano Beach, Blanche.
Yeah.
Charlie Pell doesn't get enough credit for being probably as phenomenal a recruiter as there's ever been until a guy named Urban Meyer came along, who I think was better.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Charlie Pell, when he came there in 1979, first season, I think Gators were 0-10-1. The next year, Florida goes 8-4 and beats Maryland 30-22 in the Tangerine Bowl. Of the 22 starters for Florida, 11 of them were high school quarterbacks. He knew how to find players. I think, out of all respect in the world, Steve Spurrier, Urban Meyer, just looking at it from my point of view, Charlie Pell was the guy. Remember when you hooked me up with Ward Pell, his widow? That was one of the coolest shows we ever did. But he went out and met with Mr. Ben Hill Griffin, sat on his front porch for a Sunday afternoon for 3 or 4 hours, talking about any and everything but football, eating swamp cabbage. And he left with the biggest check ever written to Gator Athletics. I think Charlie Pell connected with the just grassroots blue-collar Gator fans, a lot of whom didn't ever go to school there, but they love that school. And I saw Florida football take off on another level, and it's never gone back.
Yeah, there's a good story coming up. It's on the site now, written by Carlton Reach, about the 1979 season.
Yeah.
Which all Gator fans know was the year that Florida did not win a game.
Yeah.
And Pell's first year. Mm-hmm. There's some good anecdotes in there, and Franz, these quite well.
Yeah.
But among them are that one line I laughed at was Ward Pell was quoted as saying she had heard Steve Spurrier would wanted the job, and Florida said, "I wish he'd have got it. We could still be winning at Clemson." She didn't want to leave Clemson because they were very successful there. And the great part about Carlson's story, it talks about how terrible the conditions were in that program in 1979, which is why the people who really know, like Jeremy Fudd, will tell you, if you say who are the three most important people in Florida ever, you play Spurrier, he'll say Charlie Pell, because the athletic department was $700,000 in debt. Ray Graves had an old orange plastic sofa, which I sat on many times, held together by a piece of duct tape.
Yeah.
And that's how bad it was. It was awful conditions. It was so bad that when Charlie got there, he wanted to go home. It's terrible. And he had to go out and raise money for all this stuff. And, the stories, he had to go to Bedcock Furniture and beg for beds for the players because the beds were all too small. And on he went. He rebuilt it from the ground up. Unfortunately, he got a little aggressive in some areas, and he went into, he got a couple of rogue guys, and I've had people tell me about it. Mike Shanahan was one of them on the staff, two guys who went out and bought players. And it really wasn't Charlie's request, but they did, and Charlie got hung with it. And when Spurrier got to Florida, if you remember, that the penalty they suffered was because the running back, Franz, who was it from Palatka?
Jarvis, it was a safety, Jarvis Williams.
From Palatka had taken some money to make a payment on a child support or go to prison. And that's a main thing they got busted for. And Spurrier, who could have been bitter about a lot of things because he didn't get a bowl game this year, said, I think if they tracked that they would have found out he got the money from a guy who he had a long-term relationship with, which under the NCAA rules is not a violation.
That's right.
The money would have been okay, and they wouldn't have got in trouble for that. So of all that cheating and all that stuff, the one thing they got him for is something that might not have even been a violation. Charlie was an unbelievable recruiter, program builder, fundraiser, and you're right. He's the first person to teach you to represent and wear your colors, wear your orange and blue, whatever. Yeah. And it didn't matter if you went to Florida or not. Come on in, Florida Gator Nation.
Yeah. And he, another player to me, this is just me. Y'all have forgotten 100 times more than I know, but I'll just tell you, looking at it, because y'all tell me things about Auburn that I don't see. It's really cool. So I'm going to tell you that I think Wayne Peace is one of the most important players in Florida history. I think he came out of Lakeland, Florida, 80 through 83. Great player. I think he's in insurance business now, I think. But Wayne Peace, that when you all beat Maryland in the Tangerine Bowl, going from 0-10-1 to 8-4 at that time was the greatest one-year turnaround in college football history. That proved right there, because I know what people around the league thought about. Charlie Pell was part of Coach Bryant's lineage. I mean, he's a very well-liked guy, very well. And look, I can tell you, trust me, Auburn's been on probation a couple of times. And I was a student. We used to help Eric Ramsey when we were there. I had 6 fraternity brothers from his town, and he did what he did. I'm going to tell you one thing. I don't know if he's still living or not, but he ain't going to get any help from people. But Jarvis Williams, wasn't he the brother of John L. Williams?
They were cousins.
Okay.
They were cousins.
Yeah.
Let me get this in, Brenden. I want to make sure Brenden didn't holler at me. I'm sorry. You want me to do Titan here and get out? I got to get out, Brenden. You want to do Titan here now?
Yeah, that's fine. Let's do it.
People who don't know what it is, Titan MRI imaging is they've been around a bit now lately. They were one of our sponsors. Joe Calorio started Highfield MRI in 1997. Now he's back. They bought it. Titan MRI imaging. There's 3 locations to serve you: 2 in Gainesville, with Park Avenue location, now the Millennium Center. 1 in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta, Georgia. They offer the same great customer service. You can now get shirts from them or go to their convenient self-pay option. Titan MRI Imaging offers MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, and ultrasounds, and most of all, they offer those big tubes that you have. You can go into and get an MRI with guys like Franz and I get claustrophobic. You don't have to do that when you go to Titan MRI Imaging. Check them out. Several locations to serve you. Come and do Collison. Titan MRI and Imaging. All right, guys, have a good night. I'm out. And
good night, Budro. Good night, Budro.
Hi. Good night, buddy. See you tomorrow.
Good night, buddy.
Good night. Franz, what are you writing about this week, or what you got coming up?
I've got coming up. I was there today when Todd Golden had a press conference, and we got to talk to Xavier Lee and Boogie Fland, and I'll be writing about that for tomorrow. And I'm looking forward because I understand we're hot on the trail. By the weekend, we may have another couple football recruits. Basketball, Todd's going to still has an open one. Baseball, look forward to Florida probably getting 2 or 3 more players. I think softball is going to land a pitcher of repute, from what I understand. So a lot of good things going on here at the University of Florida. And I think the Directors Cup will come out with Florida at number 7, which is remarkable when you think about, if not for the injuries in track and field, if not for the injuries in gymnastics, if not for the injuries in baseball and in softball, Florida certainly would have finished about 3rd. But I've never seen a program in the spring sports hit with so many injuries as Florida was this year.
Well, he's Franz Beard. You can check him out on GatorbaitMedia.com. Just have the QR code up there. If not in the chat room, click on the link. Read his stuff every day. He's got thoughts of the day in the morning. He is a one-man machine, and we call him the Iron Duke. Franz, thank you very much. We will talk to you soon. Good night, Franz Beard. I like the fedora. I forgot to tell him about the fedora.
I do. I love it.
We are Click and Clack. I don't know. I just aged myself there, Rob. Click and Clack. This is the auto show. If you haven't watched, Rob and I are going to talk about transmissions later.
Yeah.
Actually, we are. We're going to talk about transmissions and Dropbox tutorial coming from Mr. Robert Browne. Folks, we are subbing in for Loren Meadows on the Lowdown. Thanks for joining us. It's all a part of this big giant network we're doing here, Rob. You can subscribe to our podcast network here, check out all the shows and all that stuff. But we are live here all the time because we're all about the live show now because, recorded shows are all fake now, right, Rob? AI is tricking you all. Not here. Rob Browne's real. I'm real. I'm just not Loren Meadows. There you go.
We are real. It's just real. Hey. Yeah, and look, and we got Anwar Richardson going to check in tomorrow morning from orangebloods.com in Austin. He's really good. He used to be an NFL reporter for the Detroit Lions. And Oakley McFerrin, the intern, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, Vince Ferrara in Knoxville. And we'll be talking about all 16 teams. But this was a cool show. Every time you start digging back in, but I'm telling you, Charlie Pell is one of the most important figures in Florida history. But he also in the SEC, you know why? He woke up the sleeping giant Florida Gator football program. And he's forever respected for that.
You and Franz got a lot in common there. You guys should get together on the documentary. Hey, follow us right here on this QR code. This is our X channel that we broadcast on with Rob's show, Sidelines Sports. You can click on there. You'll get a notification from X, Twitter. We all call it Twix, whatever the hell it is anymore. Twix. And look for more content because we're blowing away right now, Rob. We have 951 people joining us right now. 951 people live on the show right now. Was hoping to get to 1,000 today, but we didn't. Thanks to all of our sponsors.
Yes.
Check out Rob tomorrow. We go to 1,000.
That's right. And let me say, Perry Mason in Lake Placid. Yeah, I remember Frank Ford. Rest in peace, Frank, from Kissimmee, Florida. And Brent, I tell you what, there's so much talk. Getting on this show talking about Florida is a lot of fun. Let's get to 1,000. It's like a telethon. Okay,
$1,000. Get to 1,000.
Here we go. Everybody.
Here we got a minute and a half. Got a minute and a half. You tell your brothers and your sisters and their aunts.
Pick up that phone and call.
Come on.
Turn those machines back on. Morning. Sell.
I think I just broke something.
All right.
Oh, then I got my Barnwood Brenda.
Yeah, move the mic.
We'll look at that. Here, let me move.
Yeah, we'll look at it tomorrow. Here we go. Barnwood. There we go. SEC. Here we go. Let me see how it looks here. Man, yeah. SEC 16.
Yeah, I'll check it down tomorrow. We'll inspect it tomorrow. All right, that's it. We got to a close. Tune in tomorrow on this their channel. We'll play some rock and roll going out because it's not our show and we don't care. No, next week we'll have Loren Meadows. He'll be joining us. He's on all these shows anyway. So
love him.
All right. Good night, John Boy.
Good night, Mary Ellen, Mary Sue.
Why do I have to be the girl? That's not fair.
Good night, Grandpa.
Good night, John Boy. Stay gold, Johnny. Stay gold.
All right. Y'all be good.